Okay. I'd like to call to order a hearing and public comment for ordinance and comp plan amendments to the Township zoning ordinance and map. We have proof of advertisement that this was indeed advertised in the newspapers as required by law. We normally have a court reporter here. However, they were here for an earlier hearing, and as a result of that hearing, her equipment malfunctioned. Her batteries weren't working, so we're going to be using the live stream and give that to the court reporter in order to develop transcript off of that. So that's why you do not see the court reporter. Mr. Donahue, with that being said, we do have the proof of advertisement. I guess we hand the agenda over to you or to Mr. Comita?
Thank you, yes. So ladies and gentlemen, we're here to discuss and consider an adoption of an ordinance amending the zoning code of Concord Township by amending the current zoning map to change the zoning of certain parcels from residential to commercial or municipal institutional. There are essentially two blocks of properties that we're speaking to. One I'm going to describe as the Route 322 properties. That's Conchester Road between Spring Valley Road and Baltimore Pike on the east side. And then the other block of properties are various properties scattered throughout the township that are owned either by Concord Township and or the county, but have not been identified as such on the zoning map. Amanda Dominic has spoken to the proof of advertising, but in addition to that, have the properties been posted?
Yes.
Has mail been sent, first-class mail, to the affected property owners?
Yes.
And has this matter been posted on the township website?
Yes.
And has this proposal been forwarded to both the Delaware County Planning Commission and the Concord Township Planning Commission?
Yes.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, this evening, speaking to the proposal will be Mr. Thomas Committee. He is the Township Land Planner. He'll explain what this is about. Council will then be able to ask questions of either Mr. Committee or possibly Nate Klein, the Township Engineer. Okay. Then after which the citizens can fully participate. You can ask questions of the witnesses or of the presenter, or you can make a statement, or you can present evidence. Having said that, is there an attorney here representing anyone who's opposing this particular proposed ordinance? Let the record reflect none. And I guess most of the folks here are trying to make a determination exactly what's going on, and you don't know if you oppose it or you don't oppose it yet, and you're here to find out what essentially is happening. So with that, I'm going to turn the hearing over to Mr. Committee, and he can describe to council and you folks exactly what's taking place.
Before Tom starts, Mr. Gillespie just kindly reminded me, as it says in the advertisement, this is a hearing. There is no decision that will be made this night. At the end of this hearing, we can elect to close the hearing and render a decision at a later date or continue the hearing to another date to take more information. So I just want to make everybody aware there is no decision going to be made here tonight. This is purely for our land planner and our engineer to present what the township is trying to accomplish with these changes, and then have a dialogue from the council to the consultants, and then also you to us and the consultants. So Tom, go ahead, please.
Good evening. My name is Thomas J. Comita, C-O-M-I-T-T-A. I'm president of Thomas Comita Associates, town planners and landscape architects from Westchester, PA. I'm delighted to provide a summary. I've been the Concord Township planning consultant for the last 40 years, having first been employed in 1983. The good news about that is in the comprehensive plan addendum the council will consider, it just consists of 4 pages. The first of which is my Tom Comita historical summary of Concord Township, because when I started working in 1983, and I gathered all the planning documents that were relevant at that time, and they included a 1960 Delaware County Planning Commission study on Concord, a 1969 comprehensive plan for Concord Township, the one that I prepared in 1988, the one I updated in 2000, and the one that was further updated in 2004. Common to each of those 5 plans was a sort of placeholder idea that if and when the Route 322 corridor were ever widened, that there would be consideration of, whenever that would be, of what the future land use, the existing land use, and the future zoning might hold. So we know that Route 322 was widened, and at this point, as a result of the development in the northern 1/3 of the Route 322 corridor, that being from the Bethel Township boundary on the south of 322 up to Route 1, we know that Fellowship Drive and Evergreen Drive have also been built as intersecting roads. And so in the comprehensive plan addendum that was favorably reviewed by the Delaware County Planning Department and Commission, and as stated in their January 20, 2023 letters, they indicate consistency with any planning that's done on a regional basis and what PennDOT has done and the township has done, and are favorable to the consideration that the comprehensive plan would have this addendum. Essentially, the addendum looks at 2 elements of what we'll talk about next in the zoning map amendment, the first of which is along Route 322, the notion that existing C2 district would be extended down towards Spring Valley Road, but not include a parcel that was mistakenly included initially. So 23 Spring Valley Road is not with direct access to Route 322. And based on the parcel line map, there was originally a thought that it was, but we now know that it is not. So
If I could interject, just for clarification. So the properties that were advertised to be zoned for C2, 23 Spring Valley Road is being removed from that list.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. And so currently, there's a C1 district at Route 322 and Route 1. And as we know, on the west side of Route 322, the PIP, Plant Industrial Park, where Concordville Town Center is located. And then below that, where the Concordville Inn and Hotel are located, is C2. So we all have been driving by the mulch operation, which currently is zoned for residential use. And in the comprehensive plan addendum, in talking about the changes to the land use and the road network, the recommendation for the council to consider was to limit to the northern third rezoning that would be then consistent to the adjacent C2 and PIP districts. And then, as we know, south of Spring Valley Road, on the east side of Route 322.
I'm wondering if this might be easier. The C2 piece for everyone, this is Baltimore Pike and this is 322. The C2 piece is presently the hotel, correct?
Correct.
And this crosshatch area tagged 17A and 17C is currently where the mulch operation is.
Correct.
Everybody see that? And then across the street here, the PIP, this is the Loop Road. And in the PIP area, this is where the Concordville Town Center is.
Correct.
This is where Maris Grove is.
Correct.
And then these are the apartments and the townhomes that are on the other side of the Loop Road from at the rear of Target and Home Depot, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Correct.
And then over here, we have Spring Valley Road.
Correct.
Okay, so that basically handles what we're proposing to do up in this area, which is to change the zoning on these 2 parcels from residential to commercial.
Correct.
Okay.
And then south of Spring Valley Road on the east side of Route 322, where there's been recent PennDOT expansion, as well as the road expansion, and the Concord Township sewage treatment plant, all of those properties are also currently zoned residential, and the thought was that they lend themselves more closely to the MI municipal institutional district. So about a year ago, the ideas that are reflected in the comprehensive plan were drafted. And then it was brought to my attention that there are 16 properties altogether that we should take credit for as open space type parcels. And the only district that we have that has a neat umbrella under which these open space parcels would fit is the municipal institutional district. Now, the good news there is that you need a minimum lot size of 5 acres to do whatever is needed there, unless some of the parcels, which are little chiclets here and there, residual parcels that the township has acquired over the years, might already be under 5 acres, but the majority are over 5 acres. And so in the comprehensive plan addendum, it talks about the rationale from a land use perspective of why the proposed zoning map makes sense. And so in that comprehensive plan addendum, the map overall map of the township that was on the screen, excluding 23 Spring Valley Road, are included. And that was the document that was reviewed by Delaware County Planning Department / Delaware County Planning Commission. So that is kind of the summary, and I know that Nate Klein, the township engineer, not only prepared this map for the benefit of displaying all parcels under consideration, but also, as was shown in the preceding exhibit, drilled down into each site in terms of its size and attributes. So I guess one of the items that has emerged over the last 20 years is township green areas have grown. And if council adopts this zoning map amendment, then those parcels will then also show up in the township-wide open space map. So it's more green, and so green is good.
Can we go back to where you showed parcels 16A through G?
Yes.
Okay. I think maybe if no one minds, maybe we'll just try to identify them by some landmarks. 16G is where PennDOT has recently constructed the salt storage and maintenance facility, correct?
Correct.
The one right below it here is where the stormwater basin is, if I'm not. So
Correct, just south of Station Road.
Yeah, so they are being taken from a residential zoning district to a municipal zoning district, because that's what they're being used for right now.
Correct.
Salt storage building and the other. 16A, B, C, D, and E are all the properties owned by the Concord Township Sewer Authority. That is where the sewer plant is.
Correct.
So we are taking those properties and also rezoning them to municipal institutional because they are owned by the township. And
Correct.
For anyone that has driven by there, very little of that is being used by the plant itself. The intent would be to keep the rest of it as open as we can for as long as we can. But if we do have to expand the sewage treatment plant and things of that nature, we do have the ability to do it. One of the reasons we kept buying ground around the sewer treatment plant was, when you stop and think about it, it's a sewage treatment plant. So we ought to try to buy as much around it as we can. So we don't have people building houses and then saying, well, we don't like the perfume coming out of the building. So that's pretty much what was going on in this area. So
yes, and
that's what the MI is being zoned in this particular corridor, correct?
correct. And it should be noted that the R3 district that's shown in the olive green color that straddles Concord Road, that's sort of a geometric block of land, which when I started working for the township in 1983 was the same boundaries. So I think it was 1981, Delaware County Planning Department then assisted the township with the zoning map, and they just picked a dimension on either side. Some of that didn't really relate to parcel boundaries. It was just so many feet off of Concord Road. So, for example, the parcel that we took out at 23 Spring Valley Road is actually split zone. The western portion is R2, the eastern portion is R3. Now, in our lifetimes, someone might have to go and look at all of these decisions from the early 80s and rectify them by parcel line. It would be a yeoman effort, and you might do it like in the next 10 years. But the good news of making the adjustments now is that they're all based on practical existing land use and boundaries, not an arbitrary dimension.
Okay.
Yeah.
So moving on, we also have some other properties along 322 that we are proposing to zone municipal institutional. I think we have down around Clayton Park Drive, is that correct?
Yes.
Can we blow that one up, please? If you don't mind, we'll do 322 first, and then we'll jump over to the other side of the township. Yeah. As a bit of background, back in the 70s, Concord Township had 3 and 5 acre zoning. That was the only thing you could build. There was a law case called the Kitmar case, where developers took the township to court and had the zoning changed from 3 to 5 acres to 1 acre. And this was one of the first developments, Clayton Park and Cambridge Downs, that was built. At the time, I was told by my predecessors that this SU piece was supposed to be a swim club for that community. And here we are 50 or 60 years later almost, and it never got built. So PennDOT has used that now for retention. So that is another piece that we're going to get and take from SU to municipal use. If you go in our zoning ordinance right now, you will never find the letters SU. We don't even have that defined as a use. Fortunately, PennDOT has taken that, and that'll be a retention basin for the 322 project. Is that pretty much everything along 322?
Oh, yes.
5A. Yes, that's a condemned, that was a piece that they condemned, and this little piece here also. So all those things that PennDOT is currently using to support the construction of 322, either because they needed easement or stormwater or whatever, that they are being rezoned from residential special use to municipal institutional use. Okay? What direction do we want to go next, guys?
If we go to the far west.
Okay. .202 Carter?
Yes.
I think we're at 202 in Namens Creek and Carter Way. I'm sure there's a lot of questions regarding that area. Okay.
And pretty much the parcels, the four parcels outlined in red.
Again, to orient everybody, this is the Wawa at 202 in Namens Creek. This is a piece of ground that is owned by the township. It was originally owned by Wawa and given to the township for open space. We're going to convert that to municipal institutional because it's going to stay as open space. The same thing in this area here. We have these 3 little out parcels, which are currently owned by us. They are zoned R2, and the plan is there to rezone them municipal institutional so they will remain as open space. Okay? Where are we going next? Pretty much it? Same thing. That has a stormwater basin on it now. It's our basin, right? 2A and 2B. These are the pieces we recently bought on Beaver Valley Road. Is that the Zeckman property, I think? Yeah, we bought this. There was a log cabin there that was dismantled and taken over to the Newland Grits Mill for reconstruction. We're going to be putting a little pocket park in that area. They are two little parcels that the township bought, I guess, within the last 2 years. Again, we're going to rezone them to municipal institutional. That's what we're proposing to do.
Is the 4A same thing?
Where are we at? Yeah, 4A, B, and C, the same thing. They are open space now. We want to maintain them as open space, so we're going to change the zoning to municipal institutional. I don't know if you drive around, you see those little open space signs we have in Concord Township. This all goes through, we'll start posting them on these properties. That's the intent there. What else happened? Don't we have some others, or is that it? Yeah, we're going to start putting them on the properties. 6 through 10, where are they at? Where are they? Okay.
Deneno Greener.
Yeah, all right. This is the former, thank you, Amanda. This is the former Deneno property we purchased for open space many years ago on Featherbed Lane. This is another property we bought. This is the Chetty piece. Anybody remember? This is the Chetty farm right here with the stone walls and the stone barn on Featherbed. We ended up buying this one flag lot because it's contiguous to the park we have on Bethel Road, which is already zoned municipal institutional, so we want to rezone this to the same zoning district. That's the park at 40 Bethel Road. Anybody's familiar where we have the Easter egg hunts and the goats and the barns and horseback riding and I don't know, other stuff there too. Okay. Number 9 is, John, can you help me with this one? This is the Hall property. This is the corner, the old Christmas tree farm. Anybody remembers? Now it's called the Hillsborough Preserve. There's a walking trail on there. This backs up to the back end of Cambridge Downs, and that's also been preserved. Again, the intent there to zone that municipal institutional to keep it in keeping with what it's being used for now, open space or passive recreation. And then this one here is another one we bought, contiguous to the Bush Hill Farm piece. It's contiguous. This is where the horses graze on the farm down there off of Bethel Road. If you're on Garner Mine Road, you see the horses there. We own that piece of ground. But this one here? 10 is greener. That's another piece we bought across from Valley Point Church. I think, is this where they built the big house over here? Down here. This is that large house that was just built. This is north of that. It was a property, Mr. Greener was looking to sell it. We got a good price for it, and we figured we'd just keep it the way it is. A lot of this is being bought, although it might not be large masses, there's something to be said about just having it look the way it looks. So that'll look the way it looks, hopefully in perpetuity. Okay? Where's 11 and 12?
Coleman.
Smithbridge and Temple, that's down here? Is that the Coleman track?
Coleman, yeah.
We've owned that for years. That was one of the first pieces of open space we bought. And that's the nature trail. That's what we call the Coleman track. As you can see, this is the township park right here, right across the street from it. And there's a little tiny sliver back here we own. We want to do the same thing with. We're going to make it, that's where the cell tower is. I should let you do this here. Anyway, as you can see, it's zoned municipal institutional around it now. So we want to convert this to the same zoning, and the piece across the street, the exact same zoning district also. Up here. Okay. There's a new subdivision here, Gianna Way. Anybody knows that? Waterford or Garner Valley. This was the open space that was supposed to, sometimes when we do a development, the open space is deeded over to the homeowners association. This piece here, we had deeded over to us because there's a trail with the Pico right-of-way that might be coming through here someday, and the township wanted to have ownership of that ground, so we didn't have to deal with the HOA in the future. I know this is a lot of information to digest. We're here all night. You got a ton of questions. Please ask them. I mean, that's the only way we're going to get to the bottom of this so everybody has a better understanding of it. Tom, you got anything else to add?
No, I think you covered it.
Or does anybody on council have
I
any
want
other?
to say, though, without Tom's help and Nate's help, this would not have been very easy to explain. And I also thank Mr. Crossan here for helping me identify some of the properties, because I've known them from when we bought them, but we've renamed them since, and I don't know some of the new names. I just don't remember them. I want to try to point out, though, that we're trying to take the open space we own and relinquish it of its residential zoning districts and put it in the MI districts. We have,
Just as a, is there a beeping noise somewhere from back there someplace, or? Oh, it's in the, okay, thank you. Does anyone from on council have any more questions of Mr. Committa?
I think there's one more, the AME Church on Spring Valley Road. I think we're rezoning that. Can we pull that one up? Okay, this is the AME Church on Spring Valley Road, which we got the historic grant to rebuild and fix it up. It's actually being restored, and we're rezoning that to municipal institutional also. Property the township owns, and it's very proud of how it's turned out. Mr. Gillespie's been working very hard on that, and probably should be having some more information on that, and there's a dedication date coming up pretty soon. Okay?
Tom, I have one question. How many acres does this add up to that is being taken from a residential type zoning or other type of zoning and being placed into MI?
Nate might know that number.
Okay, so they're gonna do the math. Any other questions, Colleen? Benita, you have something, or you?
Yeah, just to add on to Colleen's question, how much
many
would
acres?
it be
Okay.
for residential, MI, and commercial?
To the acreage question, it's probably approximately 150 acres, give or take. We could dial it, a little bit tighter, but approximately 150 acres.
And so the record's clear, that's 150 acres of MI?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry? We can, but it has to have, I think, over 5 acres of site be built on, and then that requires a hearing to do it. We haven't, the only buildings or the only property we have bought that we have is MI that we have built on. In fact, was the sewer plant, and that was R2. And then this project here, this property here is owned MI. The O'Donoghue Fieldhouse was built here. They were the only 2 construction that we've done.
And to the question about that, then could you just call it, Nate? Yeah. The uses that are allowed by right are township government administrative office buildings or meeting rooms, township maintenance facilities and storage, municipal use, a library, museum, educational institution, or conversion of buildings and or dwellings to a non-municipal institutional use in accordance with the provisions of another section, which I'm not sure what section that is. And then there's some additional conditional uses, which can be had, such as cellular telecommunications facilities, power generation facilities, active and passive outdoor recreational uses, and those related municipal uses. And then there's also some landscaping requirements that have to do with that with regard to buffering when it buffers other zones.
Okay. I guess if there's any questions, we would ask, do you have something, John?
I just wanted to make a statement. If I were sitting in the audience and I was not up here, I would say, wow, there's a lot going on. And we could have a hearing every month for the next couple of years to take care of these issues. But this is a matter of cleaning up some things that we felt weren't really zoned properly. So that's why we're doing it all at one time.
And ultimately, with regard to rezoning much of the open space land that's been purchased recently to municipal institutional use, by having this hearing, it adds another layer of protection to this land because if it maintained its current residential zoning, a future council could sell that land, could choose to post that land for sale, and without necessarily a public hearing. If that was the intent of some future council or governing body to ever sell that land, now that it's zoned municipal institutional, it would have to go through another hearing to be rezoned for some separate use. So it's another layer of protection for this land, which we have purchased to preserve as open space.
Now, I think we'll open it up for questions. What we're going to need you to do is to come up to the podium. We're going to need your name and address, and then we'll try to answer the questions to the best we can.
And the last gentleman that just spoke, could you identify yourself because a court reporter is going to make a transcript of this proceeding?
I'm going to need you up at the microphone. The only way that the court reporter can transcribe this is through the microphones for the live feed. So I'm going to need you right up on the mic. Name, spell your last name and address.
Spell everything?
Yes, please.
Phil Rabina, Phil. Rabina is Rabena. I own 23 Spring Valley Road.
Thank you, sir.
I have one other question.
Sure.
I have a split color on there, R2 and R3.
Yes.
Pros, cons, any rezoning?
No.
I mean, it was going to be commercial, and now it's staying the way it is.
I don't think our intent was ever, that was a miscommunication on our part. There was never an intent to rezone that, though it did meet the list. I think I talked to your wife.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I told you we were going to pull that out of there. As far as R2, R3, as Tom said, back in the 80s when they did this, the commercial corridors, 202 and Route 1, when they were originally designed, there were 4 commercial zoning districts, C1, C2, C3, and C4. C1, C2, 2A, and 3. And what they did in the old days, they used to rezone so many feet back from the road was the zoning district. And I think that's what happened along Concord Road. They just drew that R3 line so many feet back from the road and everything. They didn't go to the property lines. Back in the late 90s, I think when Bob Mensch was here yet, on the commercial districts, we rezoned everything to run with the property line because it just made more sense. If you ever did have an intention of developing that and you wanted to use the R3, I'm sure you would have the opportunity to go before the zoning hearing board to see how many lots you could get on there, but that would be a decision by the zoning hearing board. We're not going to be able to do that tonight. Okay?
All right.
Thank you.
Ken Hemphill, 39 Mill Race Place. That's Ken Hemp, Hemphill. I was just curious if the township would consider conservation easements. Do you really want to prevent future councils or boards from stopping development on any of these sites? An easement would be definitely the way to go.
Sure, I appreciate the comment, Ken, and we worked with the Brandywine Conservancy on a conservation easement over on the Chetty property. Conservation easements can be are legal documents that are put into place by the owners and then generally held by a third party to then oversee and manage those easements. Concord Township owns and manages easements conservation easements down at, in the Ivy Mills district, in the Wilcox properties. And then in the case of the Chettys, because we now own the parcel, the Brandywine Conservancy owns and manages that easement. Generally, if a third party, not the township, does that, an endowment needs to be established or money needs to be put forward for that management. So there's an additional cost associated with us effectively outsourcing that, because otherwise, if we could put an easement in place, if we manage it ourselves, it sort of defeats the purpose of a third party managing it, but there's a cost that goes along with a third party managing it. So it's something to consider. But given the amount of land that we have, the amount of, we haven't looked into that. But I think we also, those also require a lot of cost to draft those conservation easements, because while you start with a boilerplate easement document, you customize it quite extensively in terms of what your hoped for intent is, or what allowable uses would be, et cetera. And so as a township, we, oftentimes conservation easements will be very restrictive to not allow you to pretty much do anything. I think we as a municipality and council, and I don't mean to speak for all of my colleagues, but I believe it is our intent to have flexibility to construct advancements on the land that would benefit the public good. So whether that's a park pavilion or a trail or something that's in the spirit of the land, we would like to have the ability to do that without having to go through an easement and get approval from a third party. Ultimately, it's ceding local control from the elected body to a third party.
And as far as the township needing to expand its physical plant infrastructure, there's plenty of room already at the township facilities on Smith Bridge and here, and
Well, one of the reasons we bought this site was it was going into foreclosure, and we actually went. Mr. Donahue was there representing us. We bought it at foreclosure. At the time, we were considering expanding the township building because we desperately needed room. And then this parcel came up, and where the ball fields are over here, the township had already owned that. However, we couldn't get to it because the only access was off of Scott Road. You needed to be a billy goat to get up there. So one of the reasons for buying this site was we had this building, we had the building in the front, room for expansion, parking lots, ball fields, things of that nature. So yes, I would say, and also, if you look at the ground we bought at the sewer plant, there's a lot of extra ground there. If we needed a new municipal garage, that might be the place to put it because we have the sewer operations there already. So I think I'm looking in my crystal ball, if I was looking forward, yeah, we're going to be ground rich as far as expanding facilities. Even if we ever had to get a police force, I mean, we have room in this building to house that. So I think we're in pretty good shape that way. We made some very, not blowing our own horn, but I think we made some very good investments in our buildings and our grounds over the years. Anyone else with a question? We'll get that in a minute.
Crazy.
Good evening. My name is Joe. I'll spell my last name for you. That's capital SCHMUCKI. Probably no one in Concord Township has that name, it's not us. But anyway, anyone from Cambridge?
Sir, we're going to need
Sir, what's your address?
Need your address.
Oh, sorry about that. It's 5757 Marlborough, capital MARLBOROUGH Lane in Glen Mills. Also, yeah, I think you folks have answered my question, and it regards since I'm in Cambridge Downs, the 55 Cambridge Downs property, which it looks like it's going to be municipal institutional. I just want to recall. Okay, sure. Okay. It would be right off of Merritt. Yeah, it would be Cambridge Drive coming off of 322. No, Cambridge Drive would be north of that, yeah. Right in there. See 5C? That looks like it. That would be actually, that would be a Cambridge Drive address. The question is, it looks like you intend to make that municipal institutional. That whole plot of land there, which goes right over to behind the houses on Marion Drive, is all wooded area.
Right.
Are you saying that's going to be conservancy protection?
Well, right now, I think there's also a small basin on that.
There is a stream that runs through there.
Yeah. There would be no, that will remain undisturbed. There's really no
Okay, fine.
other
Good.
use for that thing with the stream on there. In fact, again, when you're here this many years, you got all these old war stories, but I remember when we bought that, the developers who did this originally were trying to re-subdivide that. And then
okay.
finally, what happened is we were in the old building, again, Bob Mensch was there, and I think we offered him $125,000 to buy it, and they took it because there was no contingencies.
Oh, I see.
And it was the right thing to do. But as I said, the SU, Tom, SU doesn't show anywhere in our zoning district anywhere.
That's
There's
good.
no SU.
Okay. That's
Okay?
good. Thank you, sir.
You got it.
Appreciate it. Thanks, folks.
Anyone else? All right. And then, ma'am, you can be next, okay?
Ed Zitlow, 7 Millhaven Road, ZITTLAU. Why has the sewer treatment plant be operating all these years, probably about 20 years, on land that's zoned residential? Why wasn't it rezoned before the sewer treatment plant was built?
Go ahead. That's a very good question. That's before my time. I don't remember. I wasn't here when they built the sewage treatment plant on the board or even the planning commission at that time. But we are trying to correct that problem now. Yes, ma'am. You were next. How are you?
My name is Joan Evans, EVANS, and I live at 3 Running Spring Lane, Glen Mills, of course.
Running Spring. Let's pull it. Can we?
I'm a walker. I walk in our neighborhoods. I walk in Middletown. I love the new walkway Middletown has done. I go to Delaware. Delaware has beautiful walking grounds. And when I was on the website a while back, I kind of got the impression that some of these properties were going to be strung together somehow for the greenway, walkway system. Now, I walk, every week I walk in the Leopard Run development, which is your second, no, not that one. Your other, keep going, wrong picture. The Leopard Run one, one more.
Run.
That's your 1, 3, 4 behind.
The one behind the Wawa.
Yeah, behind the Wawa, yeah. There we go, okay.
He's here.
There, okay. Now, it would be nice if they were strung together as a walkway, but when I walk, particularly the one at the cul-de-sac,
This one here.
right there, if you look down there, that's exceptionally steep.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes down, and then, of course, there's a creek that runs along the way there.
Right.
And I'm not sure how well it would be a walkway. I mean, it would be an awful lot of excavating and landscaping to go to make that a walkway or a usable park area, plus with the stream down there. Unless, is it your intention to maintain those streams? I mean, I don't understand the intent for that, for buying that property, particularly.
Well, we already own it.
Oh, okay, so I mean.
So we're not,
So what is the use plan for that? I'm not,
Right
are you
now
going to
would be
string it
to-
together with?
right now would be just to leave it in the condition it is, but Nate, you could probably talk a little more about the trails.
Sure.
And where we are with that.
Yeah, I think it was best said. I mean, township already, these properties specifically, township is owned for years. There's no specific plan in place for anything on those properties.
Okay,
Big picture, we've got a lot of different projects and planning exercises underway. One that is probably the closest to this area is actually what we're calling the First State Connector Study. And we're trying to look at how to connect the First State National Park to the center of the township. And when you say stringing properties together, that's like music to my ears. I don't know. Maybe there's a way through these stream corridors, and then on a street over here, and then township, we don't know. So that's something we're gonna be looking at probably over the next 18 months to see if there's a way to connect those dots and those little pieces of property together.
Okay, and I can understand the number one. I guess that's a retention basin, isn't it? I walk, it looks like a retention
Correct.
basin.
Number one is a stormwater basin. We might go in there and do some maintenance of that in the future, but that's it.
Okay, and then my next question is, I guess, on the next page, what I call the Kierden property, across from the church. It's, let me see what number it is.
Valley Point.
10. Number 10, yes, there we go, 10, across from the church. I actually live, that's my development right above it. But I can see where you were trying to connect that to the PICO lines. Is that the idea there? Is to connect the property? Once again, though, you're dealing with a stream. You're not dealing with anything that's really walkable or landscapeable.
Some of these properties were bought just so they'll look that way in perpetuity.
Oh,
This
that's nice
property-
for my house, but I mean, I
Yeah,
don't know.
no, but what I'm getting at is this was the greener property?
Yeah.
Correct.
Because,
That was-
because there's the proposed Garnet Valley Greenway, which runs down that Pico right-of-way.
Right here.
And so the greener property, which is listed as number 10 there, greener being the former owners, is a way to connect the Pico right-of-way out to Bethel Road
And then to the high school right
and
away.
to the high school and the church. And so, we've talked to the church, and the church is willing to, be a trailhead, and folks can park there at the church, and then they can walk across the street there to access that if and when it ever becomes a future trail. It's only a feasibility study. It was a plan, but it's not something that we have firmly in place.
Okay.
Do we own this piece here also, I think?
Yes.
I don't-
Yeah, yes.
See, it's not tagged, but we own this piece. And how we got this piece, there was a tax sale in media, and that was available. And we picked it up for hardly anything. We figured we'd just buy it. So we kept the stream the way it is, and it's going to look the way it is.
And it's pretty. There's a stream runs all
Exactly.
the way down
So
there. It's pretty.
sometimes we get properties like that come across the board, and we just pick them up because it's inventory, basically.
And I have
and
one
we
last
save it.
question, and then I'll leave you in
Yeah, no,
peace.
go right ahead.
I also walk in Drexel Hill, and I love it because there's all the sidewalks. And years ago, I'm a walker. And years ago, it seems to me that the development that went in behind me, I thought it was discussed that the property that ran all the way along Smithbridge Road would be developed as a walkway so that students could walk from that development all the way to the high school. And I know that property gets maintained, all the way down along Smithbridge Road. Is there any future or in the near future planning on developing that as that walkway as it was supposed to be when they put that development in years ago? That was supposed to be developed into a walkway.
Yeah, you're hitting all the right notes for me tonight. I love this.
It's
I mean,
almost like the
initially, the
questions.
developers were supposed to put the sidewalk in, I believe, all the way down along Smithbridge Road
Yeah,
High School.
I can't speak specifically to that.
Excuse me, but it's almost like Nate planted you here because this is his wheelhouse.
Yeah,
What
no,
are you talking about?
I can't speak to the historic of how we got here without that sidewalk. That was before all of our time. But
Maybe have the corners in now, be nice to connect them to the sidewalk.
corners weren't my project. That was PennDOT's bright idea. But I can tell you, we currently have a tentative a bid date with PennDOT for next fall to construct a path from the high school entrance on Smithbridge Road all the way down to the intersection of Temple and Kirk. So there'll be a path that gets installed along that corridor, along with the roundabout at the intersection of Temple, Kirk, and Smithbridge. PennDOT funded project, grant money's out there. In theory, constructing this next year. So that will have a lot of connectivity for those neighborhoods in that whole area. And then again, keep building out from that to connect to the park, to connect to the library, to connect to the schools. So yeah, hopefully when you hear some of these things out there, please come support, ask questions, because it's going to be a pretty cool project once we pull it all together.
One other part of that project, if I'm not mistaken, there's also going to be a dedicated left-hand turn lane from Smithbridge Road into the high school entrance. So
Oh,
it
that
doesn't
would be
back
nice.
all the way up on.
Coming westbound on Smithbridge, you'll have a dedicated left
And
turn
that's
into the
all
high
being
school.
paid for by PennDOT.
Yeah, some of us that live in that area, we don't even plan doctor's appointments during when school opens and when school closes.
Yes.
Because of the traffic. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Robin Little, Little, 764 Concord Road.
You keep that guy over there straight, right?
Challenge. So my concern is, we've lived here for 30 years. We live on the corner of Concord and Spring Valley. And
Near the mic, ma'am.
oh, I'm sorry. Oh my. So my understanding was, when we first moved in, we looked at everything, all the areas, to see what was zoned. And it seems, and we felt comfortable and we bought. And then all of a sudden, there is massive amounts of building up on Baltimore Pike, and changes in zoning. And even now with the zoning, and I understand that it was accidental on 23 Spring Valley Road, but what would have happened if we hadn't seen that? If poor Phil would have had his property zoned commercial and didn't know that. I mean, it sends rattles up and down when we're living in an area that we thought we were protected through the zoning, and get these bolts through us when we find out, because there's a little pink piece of paper on a tree. That, and that's how Phil
You're right.
knew, and you know, that his property was going to be zoned commercial. And it just seems like we are often fearful of decisions being made, commercial coming in, more traffic, more crime, and the values of our properties are going down.
I, again, apologize on behalf of the township for that mislabeling of the property on Spring Valley Road. When you reached out to us and we reached back out to you, I think Tom and Nate had already picked that up. There was a mistake there, and that shouldn't have been on there. But I applaud you for bringing it to our attention, because it was a mistake. And I can only tell you that we'll try to do our best in the future not to have that happen again. But that was just something got tagged that shouldn't have been tagged. I think they felt Mikowski owned a little piece on Spring Valley Road, but they didn't realize it was just a sliver of a tiny piece. They just assumed it was the piece next door. And you know what happens when you assume. We shouldn't have assumed that. We should have done a little more homework on it. I hope we won't make that same mistake again. If we
I hope
do
not.
this again. No, and
Are there,
mea culpa, whatever I got to do. Right?
well, I just look at all these people here and nobody caught it. We happened to see it on a
We
tree.
caught it after it went out, and we should have caught it before it went out. And that's on us.
And that's one of the good things about this process too, right? That we go through this process, we hold these hearings, it's deliberative, it doesn't just happen in one stroke of a pen. We post things, we communicate with the neighbors so that it's refined through that process. And so that's the point of having a multi-step process, to be able to refine it. So I'm glad we were able to catch those things through that.
Are there any other areas that you're looking at to change the zoning to commercial?
At this time, I would say no. I know over the course of the years, there have been tweaks to the commercial zonings to allow for uses that didn't exist in the past, and we have reacted to them. But I would think, for the most part, whatever is zoned non-residential now will remain zoned non-residential. I can't see us doing anything, there's anything on the horizon that would do that. I mean, if you look at the Concordville Town Center, that was originally zoned office park, and we amended it to allow for the Corman tract, to allow for Marish Grove, which didn't even exist when they thought about the ordinance, and also the town center. So there have been tweaks like that made. But I think we're pretty much locked into what is non-residential being non-residential, and what is residential being residential. The prison is zoned R2 also, yeah. as well as the Concord Country Club is also zoned R2. But, they're being used by someone that, well, the R2 at the prison, I don't think those people really want to live there, but they are living there. So, anyways.
So on Spring Valley Road, there's the little open space. Can you pull up?
Where's Spring Valley? No, you're talking Spring Valley down where you are.
Yes.
Spring Valley and Concord.
Because I know you have all the pockets of open space, and it seems to benefit, small, a small percentage of people.
Over this way, though. Here's Spring Valley. Your house is right here, I think. Right? Yes.
So where those little dots are,
Where?
that was the light green on 322.
Yeah.
Like between Station Road and, so was that open space? Was that designated open
No,
space?
that was always just zoned that would have probably been R2 or R3, Tom.
R2.
And then PennDOT came in and condemned it and put the building there.
Okay, so now where is the open space on that?
No, it's being used as a municipal institutional use. It's not, that will not be open space. That's got a building on it.
But it was open space.
Yeah, but PennDOT needed to build that. They condemned it and took it for a government use. I mean, they have the right to do that.
The state, ma'am, the state came in and did that, Commonwealth of
Came in and
Pennsylvania.
took it. Just as they did for some of the basins along there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Gene.
Gene Goebel, 7 Quaker Lane, was mostly concerned with 23 Spring Valley, so glad to see that disappeared. My remaining question is, what is the story with 30 Spring Valley, the Hyannis property? 30. Above 16G, those two parcels on south of Spring Valley, but bordering 322.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I have to defer to Nate if Nate knows.
Yeah, those are not on the docket. I think PennDOT's taken about maybe 1/3 on the 322 side of those two properties for stormwater basin.
So, like referred to the Hannum property as being orphaned. 30 Spring Valley is orphaned.
Hannum is no longer interested in that.
Owner. According to Delaware County, he is.
He is? Well, then I understand he's not building there, though, so. Anyway.
He paid $2 million for it with the expectation it was going to be commercial. He didn't pay $2 million for residential. Anyway, so I'm just pointing out the obvious, that at least to me, that 30 Spring Valley is kind of not in line with our comprehensive plan as far as Station Road North.
Tom, could you look at that, and if we need to change that to MI, depending on who owns it, we can do that at a future hearing.
Yeah.
So, I guess I'm under the assumption MI would be sort of governmental owned, not, is that owned by an individual?
We will find that out.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? Bob?
Bob Little, 764 Concord Road. I am in complete opposition to changing that property on Spring Valley that's currently residential.
Over here?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything other than.
We will take that into consideration for a future hearing. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Kurt Leischner, Kurtleschner, 674 Concord Road.
Can you speak up a little bit?
674 Concord Road,
And your last name again?
Leuschnner.
Concord Road?
Yes,
Yeah.
I live right below where it says 16F in the engulfed area
Okay, down
of
this,
the red.
down this
Yeah.
area.
So my backyard is what's going to become MI, I guess.
Yes.
We just moved here in August. I'm just concerned. I want to understand what's happening in my backyard. You did touch on it a little bit about where the sewer plant is. That makes sense. What doesn't make sense to me is 16F where it says Pico right-of-way. What is the intention? Why does it touch Concord Road? And what is the intention? I know exactly where that little sliver is that goes through the woods, and there has been work being done. What's going on there?
Yeah, if we're talking the sliver that's to the south of Station Road,
Yes.
I believe that's actually owned by SEPTA, not Pico. I think Pico's got some easements on it, but it's owned by SEPTA, oddly
Okay.
enough, which is odd to begin with. So again, but that parcel goes from the front to the back. So when we're doing this rezoning effort, again, we are trying to avoid creating new split zone properties. So that entire property, that depth happens to go from 322 to Concord Road in this instance.
Okay, and I'm new to the zoning thing.
Sure.
I just
Okay.
want to understand, you talked about the sewer plant and you're rezoning all that around it so that
Right.
you can't build houses
Right.
around the sewer plant so that if you needed to extend the sewer plant, you could.
Or for other, as
Or we could-
Mr. Hempel brought up, for other municipal use if we so needed it.
And you listed those things of what a municipal use could be,
Yes.
including parks and greenways and
Yes.
things like that. So is there an intent in the future to put a
Well,
park there?
Yeah, so to be more specific then, on that former SEPTA rail line, that is part, to the woman's comment earlier today, that's really right in the middle of what we call the Octorara Greenway.
Yes.
So we've got a plan in place now to construct and design portions of that, and that's kind of right, and let's call that, I guess that's right at the end of Phase 1A roughly of that trail. So that's
So
part of it
there will be a
there.
trail going through
In-
16F.
Somewhere in that area still has to be designed.
And the trail is going to go across Concord Road?
Ultimately, it would
How?
to the gristmill
I
across
know,
the
but
road.
like, how are you going to?
Haven't gotten that far.
Okay.
We could have a push button flasher. I might have a traffic light. We haven't.
Extremely dangerous there.
We recognize that.
Okay.
Yep, I drive it all the time.
Yeah, I have a 18-month-old son that plays in my backyard. We're very concerned about strangers, crime. There's already hunters back there that aren't supposed to be there. So we are just extremely concerned to have my son back there.
If and when that happens, I mean, we've been talking about this for years, there will be hearings and we'll have to meet with all the property owners. And
Okay.
The concerns you're expressing are very, very similar to anyone else that is going to be along the trail. And to defense of the woman, and I walk that trail in Middletown too, which is great, but if you're a neighbor to it, you have a whole different set of concerns.
Yeah.
And they need to be vetted and answered and dealt with. So
All right, thanks.
we'll do that at that time. Okay, seeing no other questions? Oh, come on back up. Oh, ma'am, we'll get you next because you didn't get a turn yet.
Want me to say my name again?
No, I think we got you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, no, you do it. I'm
Just
sorry.
tell your name
You're going to have to say it again.
Okay, Robin Little, Little, Concord Road. Can we go back? So, okay, yes.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what is going to happen to those two parcels?
That's what we asked Tom Committed to let us know who owns them and what they are right now. There is no plan to do anything with them this evening. And as I said, Mr. Little mentioned before you, he is advocating that whatever they are zoned now, they remain that existing zoning. So that's what we're going to look into. But they are not on the plan to have anything done to them tonight. And depending on what Tom reports, there might not be anything happening to them in the future. And if there is, there would be a hearing on that too.
Okay.
Ma'am, please.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Petrini, Kathleen with a K, Petrini, P like Peter, E-T-R-I-N-I.
I'm sorry. I just want you to go a little bit slower for me. Can you respell your last name? Kathy, I got.
Okay. Petrini, P like Peter,
Mhm.
E, T like Tom, R-I-N-I,
Thank you very much. And your address?
108 Running Brook Road.
Thank you.
I just wanted to go back a second to the whole concept of notification. I talked about notification and all the issues and errors with the Spring Valley, et cetera. Earlier in the beginning, you talked about how, the postings have been mentioned, and you also talked about notifying people adjacent to these properties. What else do you do to notify people? Because, for example, I'm on Running Brook Road. The only reason I saw these pink signs is because I walk. I'm not adjacent to them, but they are my community. And it brought back memories of the Wawa being constructed. I was never notified. What other things are you doing so it's more transparent and so that we know?
Okay. Amanda, do you have anything to add to that?
Sure. I just would like to point out, so we're following exactly what the law says that we need to do in terms of notifications, which is guided by the MPC for these matters. So, and state law. So basically what happens is we have an advertisement that hits the paper, runs twice consecutively, and we use papers of mass general, circulation. Additionally, we have it on the website. We are required to post the properties. We choose pink, so you notice it. That's part of one thing that we do. And anytime we have an ordinance or a comp plan amendment, they go also, they go on our website. We have to send them to the Delaware County Planning Department, which also has advertisements for their public meetings. They also go to our Planning Commission, where there are advertisements and things posted online for their meetings. So there's sort of multiple layers of advertising and notification, but we aren't required to send a letter to every single homeowner in town,
Okay,
which is,
Amanda, I have a question though. We have that alert system or that through our website, correct?
Yes.
So if you were enrolled on that, you would get a notification of everything going on, correct?
I'm not sure, Lisa sort of handles that, but I'm not sure if that goes out, because it's not required of us to do that.
No, I'm not saying that it's required, but if you enroll in that system and this was coming up, you would get a notification that there's a hearing on this issue. So,
I'm enrolled and I don't get those notifications.
okay.
I get Havertown, Upper Darby. all
Oh,
the-
you're talking about the Delaware County
But I
alert
mean-
system. That's not what we're talking about. We have a separate one.
Well, then, yeah, but I don't get, I mean, I have to look on the website, like you already said, okay? But I don't get notifications, and if we have our system, a system here, how do I get that?
Well, no, I'm trying to work the problem here a little
Yeah.
bit, but if there's a way of anyone that's enrolled in the system, if we're having a hearing on something, let me think of something. Well, we just had the hearing, conditional use hearing for the a co-location on the cell tower. If you're enrolled on the system, would you get a notice, regardless of where you live in the township, that happened? So
And I am.
Yeah.
That's why, so that's my secondary question.
On the website, it's
And
on
I
the website.
thought I had.
okay.
So how does
Tell
that
you,
system work?
If you want, after the meeting, check with Lisa.
Okay.
She'll get your information, and we'll figure out what
All
happened.
right, and that might be something to tell more people about how that works.
I'm going to tell you something.
Because I feel like I'm somewhat involved and I keep somewhat attentive to what's going on, but I think some people really, not everybody's always reading all the other things that all of the items that you mentioned earlier about where you have to post and whatnot are all great, but sometimes we just need something that just reaches out to us.
But I agree with you, and I think we're not trying to hide anything from anyone, but as you said, we're mandated so many feet from the property to send a notice, but if you're 1 foot past that, we're not. But I think as a resident, if you're on that system, you should know what's going on. We should send you that. You might look at us, that has nothing to do with me, I don't care. But I also think, and Colleen said the same thing, we have tried to get this out there. We go to a lot of groups. We meet with a lot of HOAs, a lot of people. I think it's also incumbent on the citizen to take that step. I mean, we can be as transparent as you want, but if you're not going to enroll to get the information, it sounds like you did, you just might not be on ours, then I don't think we can do anything. I mean, I don't think we're going to knock on everyone's door in the township and say something's happening, but.
No, and that may be
we-
true, but I
we
guess
should
the other.
make sure there's a way that you get the information of what's going on in your township as it happens. I agree.
And that's, yeah.
No, same way, I don't do it either. Point well taken.
But
After
the
meeting-
other thing I wanted to just say is, I know years ago, you used to, instead of just adjacent, it would be, more of the people in that area, that community. Like in the past, I would have known about what was going on Running Brook and Carter because I lived there. But now you're limiting it to, and okay, that's what you're prescribed by law, but it might be nice to enlarge
No, I
that a
agree.
little bit.
Also, is there an HOA for your group or no? See, we have that.
No, I'm
I
in that
live up
Leopard
on,
Run, Carter Way,
I
Running
live up on
Brook.
Patricia Lane and Governor Markham. We don't have an HOA, so if something happens to a property, well, I know about it. Yeah, 'cause I
Right.
don't want to be up here, but.
No, we're
but nobody
depending on
does. But anyway.
finding out
yeah,
through
we'll
our community.
Check with Lisa
guys.
before you leave, and we'll make sure we get you hooked up on that.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, thank you.
All right. Any other comments? Yes?
My name is Kathy Cuerden, Kathy with a C, Cuerden, Cuerden. I live at 212 Bethel Road. I live between Running Spring Lane and the new property that you bought, 180. I have a lot of concerns about this pathway that you're going to put going from the high school down through 180 Bethel Road. Have you seen the curve that is there? I mean, quite often I'm picking up dead animals that are across from the church. When they have accidents from the school kids, they wind up on my property. Yep. I think you really need to, you're going to have to really do something, I guess, magnificent if you are going to make a path through there. Also, that piece of property you bought does not perk. You've
That's
got
fine.
riparian buffer in there.
Mhm.
I mean, you're going to have a lot of ecological things that you're going to have to do. Also, I am a biologist. That's the one reason we brought our property where I live. So,
Well, I think when we do get to the point where we're talking about trails and things, that's going to be a whole separate meeting in this room. And I'm going to make a bet that we'll probably need a bigger room because there are going to be a lot of concerns similar to that.
Yes.
We don't live in a flat plane. We have a bunch of curves and we have different elevations. And I guess that's why the engineers get the big bucks, right, Nate?
Yeah, and again, I
So
think
we figured it out.
what I want to clarify is something like this concept is up here. It's at this high level. And we, part of the justification or the, acquisition of these properties is recognizing where these potential connections could exist. This is not something we've got figured out. I've been on that property. It's got a lot going on. So again, might not even be doable. So it's just, I don't want to, I know it sounds like we've got a lot, but it's just, that's not something that's actually happening tomorrow either. But as we continue to develop plans, there'll be more public outreach.
I hope that when you do this at nighttime, when the kids or whoever's coming down the road, we can hear them screeching on the fence that goes around the corner. So, I mean, this is...
That's a whole separate issue, and you're bringing up some very, very good points and legitimate points.
It's a very steep property going down,
Mhm.
going down towards the stream there.
Okay,
I thank you.
thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, Mr. Donahue, I think we would like to get a motion to close this hearing.
So moved.
Seconded.
Second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
What's going to happen next is we will act on whether to rezone or not rezone these properties at our first public meeting in March. By Home Rule Charter, even though we are meeting next week, we cannot act in that short a time frame. That meeting would be on March, We have a public comment that we can enter into the record.
Sure.
We need to reopen the hearing, or can we just add it on as an addendum?
Now I got to find it. The public comment is as follows. The area on Newland Way that was designated as a storm water runoff basin has not been maintained by the township for the last 20 years. It has been left to overgrow and is also used by some of the residents as a dump for yard waste. It does not seem reasonable that after being there for 25 or so years, that the township deems it necessary to rezone the area to protect it. Secondly, the area on Carter Way in back of the Wawa abutting Webb Creek was previously designated as wetlands, and part of which was to be reserved as open space. Given those designations, changing the zoning to protect it would be unnecessary. Opinion: over the years, township management has been open to excessive buildup of commercial business and high-density housing, resulting in heavy traffic, pollution, noise, and crime that comes with it, seemingly with disregard for the residents that have to live here. Given how the township has managed things in the past, it is not believable that the township is being forthright in what the long-term plans are for the proposed rezoning changes, and that's from Dennis Hollis of 5 Newland Way. That's right.
Do we have a second?
I seconded.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
And Mr. President, just as a clarification, and the vote would be either, could be possibly to have some changes and not others. It's not an either or proposition necessarily.
Explain that?
Sure. I think you've indicated that the township's not going to, the council will not vote or pass on this until the meeting in March.
Right.
Okay. And all I'm simply saying is the township may decide some changes will be made while other properties that are on the list will not be changed.
Well, we already committed to the one at 23 Spring Valley, so yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Anyway. Hey, thanks for coming out. A lot of good questions, a lot of good give and take. I see Mr. Foltz there. I need to talk to him for a minute before he leaves. He wasn't getting here early tonight. Tom, thank you for all your hard work on this. And